Let's get back to some NFL news. Obviously, the big headline this week was Bill Belichick getting snubbed by the Hall of Fame. Joe, your initial thoughts and how have things settled now over the last couple days here?
Listen, it's pretty simple for me. Epic, systemic failure for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. There has to be change. It has to be immediate. The way that the voting is conducted has been proven to be inadequate. It needs to change right now. They don't need to wait. By the time they vote on Hall of Famers again, I think they should do it differently. I think the first thing they should do is expand the pool of voters so that a small amount of people can't make such an awful decision that looks bad for everyone involved with the Hall, and as the great Troy Aikman said, everyone who is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Change it now.
Mac?
Agree. I think this is something that started long time ago. And if you look at the specifics of how this happened, it wasn't so much that Belichick didn't deserve to get in, but it was how the senior candidates are lumped in with the coaching candidates. And you can only put in a certain number of people. That's really flawed. And, you know, I have covered Hall of Fames before. I'm a baseball Hall of Fame voter. There's no right way to do this. You're inevitably going to screw something up. But the Football Hall of Fame, to me, is probably the most dysfunctional because it started so small and it remains so loyal to those traditions that started decades ago in the face of a growing popularity, not only in the game, but in the Hall. And you have voters who would rather die than give up their chance to vote on the Hall of Fame. And in the process, a very flawed process, finally is getting its day in the sun, where everybody involved can say, without any equivocation, that guy's a Hall of Famer, and this process stinks.
To put a button in that real quick, for Bill Polian to say he was only 95% sure whether or not he voted, time out, because again, that process real quick, it's 5 names and you have 3 votes for those 5 names. And then you tell me you're 95% sure. With all due respect to Bill Polian, he should never vote again on the Hall of Fame. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Just to kind of piggyback off of Mac's point that it's getting its day in the sun. In this particular circumstance, the sun's going to prove to be a disinfectant, or at least it needs to, because this process does need to get shifted around. And it is a byproduct. Mac, your former colleague at the Star Telegram, Shireen Williams, who is one of the Pro Football Hall of Fame voters, our Arnold Payne went out and did some really good work on Friday and talked with both Shireen as well as Calvin Watkins, who is a voter that is based here in Dallas as well at the DMN. And Shireen talked about how the current process that I believe only went into place last year was a byproduct of some of the comments from Deion Sanders a few years ago about how many people were getting into the Hall of Fame and the fact that there needed to be an upper room and there's too many. And the Pro Football Hall of Fame listened to their members, in particular Deion, but he wasn't alone in this chorus of saying it's too easy to get in. Too many people are getting in. So they made it harder. And now here we are with somebody like Bill Belichick, who plainly deserves to get in, not getting in. It's lunacy for him to not be in the Hall of Fame and for him to not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. If he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, no coach in the history of the league is, save for maybe Vince Lombardi, if you want to have that one argument as far as who the greatest coach of all time in football is. He's in that conversation, and he's part of a 2-person conversation. It's insane that he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, and it does speak to how much apparently it again needs to change. The process needs to change.
Mac, this isn't directed at you, but I used to think that the baseball writers who voted on the Hall of Fame, they had the biggest burr because they wouldn't let anyone become unanimous. And we're talking about the greatest names from the very first, election. From, Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Jackie Robinson, Nolan Ryan. None of these were unanimous first ballot Hall of Famers until 2019 with Mo Rivera, right? And that used to be my biggest pet peeve, but that has been obliterated by the football writers with this.
The only thing I'll say is this. We don't know the entire class yet. The rest of the names have not been released. There's still time to salvage this. Everyone on the face of the planet thinks Belichick should be in. All you got to do is make an exception this time. Mulligan, we're changing the bylaws this year. Belichick's going in along with everyone else that got voted in on this cycle. There's an easy way to fix this. I know we won't go down that path. It just feels like there's a way that everyone can move on from this quickly. Real quick before we get going, Super Bowl predictions. Joe, who you got?
I think it's going to be the Seahawks winning this Super Bowl. Real quick, just the team, guys. Who you got?
Seattle. Give me Seattle.
Mike?
Seahawks as well, and Jackson Smith and Jigba for MVP.
Are you going to ruin the graphic?
I'm not going to. I'm picking the Patriots. I'm tired of choosing against New England at this time of year. I have learned 6 times prior to this not to
There
pick
goes
against
our
them.
chance
That's
to
good
go viral,
producing.
Andrew.
That's
Thanks
good
a lot.
producing.